Paul Brunton explains the world's perennial wisdom. An introduction to Paul Brunton's Metaphysics. Video Series 4, Video Number 4. Presented by the Paul Brunton Philosophic Foundation. The hidden teaching beyond yoga and the wisdom of the overself are intended to lay before readers a teaching which constitutes an endeavor to acquaint this epoch with the fundamental meaning of existence, and which, in such explicit fullness, is for the first time written down in Western language. The earlier book had to clear up the intellectual foreground and leave hidden in the background the real goal of all this effort, the overself, the inner or true self of a human, reflecting the divine being and attributes. Aspirants needed the mental glasses provided by Hidden Teaching Beyond Yoga to help see through the ideological mist that so often surrounds them, so that they could begin to experience why the serum of mentalism had to be heavily injected to overcome the poison of materialism. What mentalism seeks to get home to people is the difference between mind and brain, between an untouchable essence and a touchable thing, between an invisible principle and a visible lump of bone-covered flesh. And even those who feel they have neither the external conditions nor the internal inclination to undertake such a quest may feel heartened merely to know that the overself, our eternal reality, is. That life is significant, that the world makes a rational whole, and that righteous conduct is worthwhile. Hundreds of texts were examined in the effort to trace and collate basic ideas. The conflict of venerable and respected authorities over many momentous points shrouded them in gray shadow, but opened my eyes to the inescapable need of disentangling myself from all authority whatsoever. This was a course contrary to Asiatic traditions and notions, but it could not be avoided if I were to remain faithful to the ideal which had been glimpsed. All this is but a preamble to the statement that with these volumes a doctrine is presented, which in all essential principles is not a local Indian tradition, but an all-Asiatic one. That which actuates these pages is the simple desire to help others over life's difficulties to the fulfillment of its higher purpose. And to implement this more effectively, I have sought, creatively instead of imitatively, to help a widely scattered group born in this epoch work out its own inner understanding of existence and display its own cultural vitality. The need today is not old dogmas, but new dynamisms. Our century must speak for itself. We must let the past instruct us, not enslave us. In such a way alone can these difficult doctrines be made clear to the modern mind. Therefore, this teaching, a fresh, living reconstruction, will henceforth be offered on its own merits, not on the value of any tradition which may lie behind it, and offered to free minds, not to shackled ones. My life has been a constant searching after truth. I have said before, and I must make it plain once again, that I do not write as one wearing the mantle of a teacher, but only as one sharing the struggles of a student. I know well the difficulties and darkness, the errors which measure every mile of this quest. But I know also unearthly visitations and heavenly communions, and something that brooks no denial bids me leave a record before I pass from this earth. Any higher rank than that of student among students is hereby disclaimed. But this need not minimize the importance of what is here communicated. The temerity of printing these thoughts may be great, but the timidity of withholding them at such a time as the present will surely be greater. Amid the confusions and despairs of a desolate epoch, wherein the structure of civilization has tumbled over our heads like a house built of cards, it is the inescapable duty of whoever knows that a higher hope exists for mankind to speak the lost word for the sake of those who will listen. If these thoughts were really too far out of the world to reach the people who are haplessly inside it, then they would have no right to lift a pen. But because mind is the unacknowledged basis of all living, knowledge of the truth about mind cannot do other than provide a better support to such living. And that this is so, that the hoariest truths about reality and its shadows can be brought into touch with the practical concerns of personal and national life, should become abundantly clear to anyone patient enough to study the teaching in its fullness. These leaves are sent out across the window without adolescent illusions about their reception, and if a few of them shall flutter down to rest a while beside a friend or two, and remind them of their divine origin and destiny, it shall surely be enough. Excerpted from the author's preface to The Wisdom of the Overself, The Path to Self-Realization and Philosophical Insight. Paul Brunton, 1898 to 1981, a best-selling British author of a dozen books, spent much of his early life researching the original sacred teachings of Western and Eastern spiritual traditions. He traveled the world to discover and communicate with Christian, Kabbalistic, Vedantic, Buddhist, Taoist, indigenous, and Sufi masters. Blending the richness of his own spiritual experience and inquiry with these ancient and contemporary teachings, he developed a philosophy and path of practice that suits life in the 21st century, one that expresses the greatest wisdom and love available to humankind. Regardless of how it is named, we each have a divine soul, an overself or higher self, that is with us here and now, waiting to be realized. Paul Brunton's writings are a source of deep spiritual guidance for all those interested in living a divinely inspired life.